The VW ID4, Volkswagen's most important electric vehicle, mid-size EV SUV, now available as the GTX, supposed to build a bridge from the sporty GTI world to the sporty EV world with all-wheel drive called GTX. Here today on Autogefuehl. I'm Thomas, and of course I want to find out how sporty is it really and how capable is it. Also comparing it to the recent platform siblings, the Audi Q4 e-tron and also the Skoda Enyaq. They share the very same platform. Another competitor would be the Ford Mustang Mach-E. Of course also the Tesla Model Y. So fierce competitors here for the VW ID4. And as the GTX version, it has a sporty appearance. Here in the lower area, a new black mesh grille. So that looks quite fancy. Overall definitely sport look, and that's why I also picked the red today. Again, for that bridge between GTI and the electric GTX. Light signature here. The strip goes all the way to the main headlamps. Beautifully done. And the matrix LED are included here in the GTX model. 4.58 meters or 180 inches is the length here of the ID4. And the GTX here, this version, all-wheel drive model, starts with 20-inch wheels. Optional these 21-inch wheels, the biggest one available. GTX batching right there. And special thing, whereas you would more have crossover cladding in the lower area, this one is here in the sporty version painted. So on the one hand, all-wheel drive and, you know, off-roadish X naming. On the other hand, sportier look. Does it work together? Well, I mean, just look at it. I think it works well. However, you still have this kind of van-style atmosphere, short hood there, but that also makes this electric platform so good on the inside. Not too long, but a lot of space on the inside. Then, interesting, the main electric motor is the rear one. That's the bigger one, has more horsepower output, and is mostly rear-wheel driven. It's a rear-wheel driven platform. And on acceleration peaks, also the front motor then, the additional one here, is being used. But as soon as you stop accelerating, it's once again mainly the rear electric motor. The recuperation also works via both, but since most of the time the rear recuperation is enough, also this one is most often used for that. And the projected range, we saw also for the Enyaq and also for the Audi Q4 e-tron, it's the same right here with the bigger battery, 77 kilowatt hours net, approximately 400 kilometers of electric range and 250 miles. Now that's a very interesting perspective, isn't it? It starts, by the way, with a base suspension, which is already a little bit sportier. Option, you can go 50 millimeters lower sport suspension, fixed one, and optional. DCC, dynamic chassis control, that's the adaptive suspension, then also with the sportier setup. It's also the one we're testing here today. Then you can also vary in the driving modes, and the adaptive suspension adapts accordingly. In the rear, typical hatch look, but I think a very clean design. That works very well. And the GTX gets these special accentuations right here. Overall, I think this GTX look works very well. Since we have the all-wheel drive here, maximum horsepower output of about 300 horsepower. Acceleration figure, 6.2 seconds to 1 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. But to 60 kilometers an hour, that's interesting. Just 3 seconds, because this instantaneous torque from the electric motor, so you're really quick, especially from the traffic light. We can also see a very cool tail lamp signature here, light strip all the way across the vehicle. And then at the sides here, this dot structure. Once again, really modern and playful. Here we are with the turning indicators, starting at the front. In the rear, you also have them in a cascading style. And recharging 11 kilowatt AC and 125 kilowatt DC. Well, that's not really DC leading, isn't it? And sadly, no frunk here whatsoever. Oh, and did you get that story where Volkswagen of America claimed to rename the whole brand to Volkswagen, and they released it prior to April Fool's Day, and everyone took it for granted, even the journalists and so on were reporting on it, and then they later on said, yeah, you know, it's April Fool's. But they released it before April Fool's Day. So yeah, I mean, first of all, if you do something like this, do it on April Fool's Day. Second is, April Fool's Day in a world of fake news and lost trust in media and big corporations, maybe not the best idea unless it's super funny and super obvious. And the third factor, I mean, Volkswagen would have been such a great name, but either name the whole car that way, that would have been awesome, right? Hey, what do you have if you bought a Volkswagen? Or just use it as a proper marketing slogan, just like, this is the ID4, the Volkswagen. That would have been cool, you know? So use this, you know, super great coincidence, but don't make this April Fool's BS with it, right? Car key, kind of standard, like we know from the Golf. High gloss piano lacquer, yeah, we know better stuff, definitely. Integrated door handle, good for aerodynamics. And then underneath you have some kind of feedback. Opening the door is a little bit special than here on the inside for the GTX or the all-wheel drive model here. Blue accentuation to the inside of the door, soft touch, and red contrast stitches. The upper part is also soft touch, so that's good build quality. The only thing I don't like are these handles here for the side mirrors, and because you have to look at it what you're doing, it's not that intuitive like the old school solution. Then the dashboard is also blue instead of black. That's also cool, and once again soft touch and with red contrast stitches, really nice. And you have the steering wheel with GTI style, just in GTX then, with a red accentuation, and these really small digital instruments connected to the steering column. Soon more details to that. Lower part, GTX entry badge, and then these special seats. Well, first of all, the seats which come as standard still have a separate head restraint, but are already quite sporty, but we know them from the normal ID4. They come with fabric on the inside. These here, these sport seats with integrated head restraint, they come with microfiber surface, really high quality, and they look awesome. Both will deliver you good comfort, so it just depends on if you want to go for these here extra. So seats always animal free. Steering wheel, they are still working on a solution that you can get it animal free and still also use the travel assist, which is then here activated at the steering wheel. Oh, and great joyful idea here, the brake and the throttle pedal with play and pause. When you sit down and press the brakes, the screens get active, and here you can see that the small screen moves along with the steering wheel, and it's really tiny. This is, for example, different than in the Audi Q4 e-tron, which has big virtual instruments. However, the reason that they kept this one here so simple, and indeed you can really not switch much right here, is the head-up display. It's an option, but they say, okay, now we have head-up display with augmented reality function, so we don't need big instruments anymore. That's their argument. And putting in the gears works like this: D, or press it once more for B. This is then higher recuperation while driving, or here then for reverse, and then you also have this rear view camera. Oh, and the music also pops on automatically. Thanks. And here the buttons, capacitive on the steering wheel, not so easy to control while driving. I know it looks fancy, I know it's also illuminated from the back, but still, real buttons would be easier to control. At least that's my opinion. And I know this is a big fail for all our US viewers, especially here. 2 window levers in the front. Well, you can still control the rear. You just have to press rear then and then control them. Yeah, what do you think about that? Then the infotainment system, yeah, you have these sliders here for the temperature. That's again this capacitive curse. The same also for the volume. Hey, we now call it capacitive curse. Then you have some hotkeys, for example, to access the climate menu. Then you can still, you know, change the temperature at least here. But I mean, if it's there or there, yeah, it's both. Shame. Yeah. So, and then let's check out the rest of the infotainment system. 12-inch is an option. Standard would be 10-inch. This is the bigger one. And they have meanwhile updated it a little bit, so it's a little bit faster, more responsive, and has less fails. The earliest vehicles had more fails. Now it's not the most fancy infotainment system, and you see it's also not the fastest. But since the latest upgrade, at least it's usable. So this is the main menu then here. And of course, then we also have the smartphone integration. And here we go, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto also available with the wireless connection, and the integration is well done. And the sound is actually very decent. Maybe it's the form of the vehicle and also, you know, this panoramic screen in the front that is, you know, giving us a good resonance. And what else is relevant? When you hit the mode button here and you have the DCC, dynamic chassis control, the adaptive suspension, then you can pick the driving modes, and then also the suspension acts accordingly. What about the voice input? Drive me to Berlin. That takes a while.
Sorry, this is not currently possible. Please try again later.
Okay, why? Middle console offers space for things and drinks. Here more things and here more drinks. And no, that's not a wine bottle, that's a water bottle actually, but in a wine niche style. Okay, and in here, smartphone, inductive charging, or then 2 USB-C supplies. And the cool thing is here for van style traveling atmosphere, you have adjustable armrests. And one more look at the cockpit overview. Styling wise, really clean. That's cool. However, the Audi Q4 e-tron is a little bit more exclusive and higher in the build quality. And also the Skoda Enyaq, for example, I think it's just a little bit fancier, especially in the interior. And my biggest criticism point here is definitely this piano lacquer use also at the dashboard. Yeah, that should come a little bit classier. Or what's your take on that? And one more look here for the GTX model, also the blue dashboard with the red contrast stitches on the passenger side. And here you can also see the ambient lighting. Put it to red here underneath this inserts, and then here also at the inside of the doors each. Seating position is upright, not too high though. I just recently drove the Audi Q4 e-tron. That one offers more like a higher SUV driving position. This one rather in a crossover style, but you could also just go higher with the seat. I mean, then you also get a more higher SUV seating position. That goes far, so that must look weird now, right? But yeah, let's move it down, y'all. So, and then the headroom with one with 86 or 6 with 1 is like this. That's actually quite substantial. Usually put it a little bit higher like this, so really cool. And I found myself, really comfortable here. It works both with the comfort seats and also with these optional sport seats. They are really very good. And one more capacitive curse, CC, here for the roof cover. But glad we have one, because otherwise it can get really hot inside here. Look at that, now it's all the way back and it's a huge panoramic screen. In some EVs you don't have the cover there, but here you can make it a little bit colder. What's cool in the rear, no middle tunnel, EV platform, temperature control, and also 2 USB-C chargers. Same nice microfiber materials, by the way, and here for the rear seats, if you pick that microfiber sport seats option. In this view you can very well see the contrast between the blue and the black here. By the way, here this is then hardpack at the rear doors, and getting inside is really easy. And it's a very good seating position here in the rear, so a lot of legroom left here. One means A6 and 6 with 1. Headroom, it's close actually. Yeah, but still works for tall adults. But it's really comfortable here, and you have a lot of room and comfort. Once again here, due to the lacking middle tunnel. So great view through the panoramic roof. It's actually very well usable. So especially considering the length of that vehicle here, you have a lot of space on the interior. And then you also have some armrests right here with cup holders, but they are not adaptive, and also a ski hatch is available. Trunk area is 540 liters up to 1,575 liters, or 19 cubic feet as we see it right now, up to 56 cubic feet. And the width, about 1 meter or 40 inches. And then you can also fold down the seats, and this is then the maximum setup. Well, these fellas are obviously very interested in our ID4 GTX. Or is it just a shade? How sporty is the acceleration? Let's find out. Let's go. Woo, that's 100 kilometers an hour or 62 miles an hour. Yeah, really quick, great boost, especially in this really, really low speed area, like this 0 to 60 kilometers an hour. That is really impressive. And especially like on the first few seconds, you can almost beat any other petrol sports car with that. That's pretty cool. Then it gets a little bit slower bit by bit. So still rear-wheel biased, more power from the rear electric motor, a little bit less from the front one. The front one is not that powerful, and also the rear one is more efficient. And that's also the reason why they predominantly use the rear one. The front one then for these boost spikes, especially for these then, it doesn't run that often. So it really varies but actually a good idea to do that, and you can still keep the rear-wheel bias with that. However, if you go for the rear-wheel drive only version, the only sporty advantage you have is that when you get out of the corners, you just have rear-wheel drive and the rear comes around a little bit better. Here you are of course also pulled from the front, so from a purist feeling, then the rear-wheel drive is better. But here of course you always have more punch and you are just quicker in any situation. Really depends on what's then more important to you, and of course also if you want to afford the extra price for that. In general, the steering is really great, very precise. That accounts for all the siblings here. Yeah, maybe the Skoda from the setup a little bit softer, the VW and the Audi a little bit crisper, but really good. So there's no dead zone area and you have a very good feeling for the vehicle. Battery placed in the center of the vehicle as well, low center of gravity. So, I mean, it doesn't look that sporty on the outside, but still you have great sporty driving fun. Here in the sports mode, the suspension is also quite stiff. I mean, there's some bumps in the road and I really feel them. So this is in the DCC, and then you have a astonishingly sporty setup here. So let's see how that changes when I go to the comfort mode. Then I immediately feel it gets softer. I'm not sure if you can even pick that up on camera, but you could really hear that it was louder from the bumps in the sports mode, and now in the comfort mode, these bumps are evened out even better. So yeah, it was maybe even a little bit annoying. So I would stay in a comfort mode here, and you can switch the sport mode then when you have a more even road. But that's of course the cool thing. You have that flexibility with the adaptive suspension. In the sports mode then on very plain roads, you can have a lot of fun. And then of course in the comfort mode when it's a little bit bumpier. But what a beautiful road here, rapeseed field here left next to us, some of the trees going straight and straight. This looks really cool. German countryside here, and we are at the moment quite in the middle of Germany, by the way. Head-up display, very well to read, and also when I'm getting towards the side of the road, sometimes it's showing me like some arrows that I'm supposed to keep it in the lane. It's also interesting. When I'm going slalom here at 70 kilometers an hour, again, bumpy road, but that's great to test. Still, the car is remaining very stable, good to control. There's no flexing of the chassis whatsoever, so this platform is really superb. And felt it with the Q4 e-tron and also the Skoda Enyaq. The Enyaq, the least sporty one from the feeling of these three siblings. Then this one here, and the Audi definitely feels sportier, and then the ID4 in general. Whoa, that other journalist probably with the ID4 was really fast. I mean, I'm no slouch as for driving fast, but I tend to keep it a little bit more responsible. That happened. Yeah, live on Autogefuehl, definitely. Did I expose someone now? Sorry about that. Back to our review right here. I'm having a lot of fun driving the ID4. The e-tron, the funny thing is, on the one hand, it felt sportier. On the other hand, you have to say the GTX model now of the ID4 really adds this sporty touch with the sporty setup of the suspension. And what I told you in the interior part, here in the ID4, you feel you would sit a little bit lower than in the Q4 e-tron. And that again makes a little sportier feeling here with the ID4. So seating position wise, this is the sportiest one of all the siblings. From the rest of the characteristics, I think rather the Audi, but this one here then comes really, really close. At the end of the day, of these siblings, it's more about which one do you prefer styling wise, and also what concise offering do you get at the dealer. Usually an Audi Q4 e-tron is around 3,000 euros more expensive in a similar spec than the ID4. And here, by the way, when you go uphill, hitting the throttle, immediately there is acceleration, and wow, what great views we have here for you today. Really great to enjoy that together with you. And that's the cool thing about the overdrive model. Even when you are already at speed, you always have more punch on the way. Here we go, now 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, and it's quite windy than here in this open field, but noise insulation is still quite decent. However, there again the Audi is more silent. Definitely feel the Audi was like extremely silent. There may be some more cost savings here in comparison to the Audi, but then of course you also pay some more price. If we compare the Ford Mustang Mach-E, which is also a super interesting vehicle, and they already have that with the animal-free whole interior, also the steering wheel. That's great with Ford. As for the, oh, stop, and here we go. Yes. Woo. Another 0 to 100 acceleration, because I want to get in before the other cars hit us there. And that was also very well done. Have you seen? I mean, I was starting full throttle in a corner. That speaks for the vehicle, how everything is controlled. There was no understeering, although I had full power on the front axle. Steering was great. There wasn't any traction loss, nothing. Absolutely flawless. And once again, that shows that electric all-wheel drive is just superior. There's no mechanical link whatsoever, front axle to rear axle. Everything is electronically controlled, and that's the reason why you can also fine-tune it that way. So really very well done, both hardware, chassis-wise, and also software-wise, what they have done with that vehicle. And I think, I mean, why not use this new GTX tag for that? I think it brings a little bit more playfulness to the vehicle. By the way, the US market most probably will not get the GTX badge. Not sure why they went for this decision. They just set it as the normal all-wheel drive model then. Yeah, we have to see if it gets the same styling elements. I don't understand that decision. Why not making it just, you know, unified for all the different markets? That would have been better. Yeah, and range, once again, of course, when you drive a little bit faster, when you have the all-wheel drive model, you will lose some range. But in general, in summertime, for all the siblings, Audi Q4 e-tron, Skoda Enyaq, and also the VW ID4, with this bigger 77 kilowatt-hour net battery, you will always end up somewhat 400 kilometers or 250 miles. You can score a little bit more when it's warm, and you rather keep it steady, like 80 kilometers an hour, 50 miles an hour steady, and then you can drive further. Or when it's wintertime, or you constantly hit the throttle and drive really fast on the motorway, then of course range is dropping a little bit more. Heat pump is also available for this vehicle, by the way. And the top speed, depending if you go for an ID4 entry model, 160 kilometers an hour, or here the GTX, 180 kilometers an hour top speed. So definitely tune also into the Skoda Enyaq review, and also the Q4 e-tron, the Audi Q4 e-tron review, or also the Ford Mustang Mach-E. We also have this video here linked, or also you will always find links in the video description or the pinned comment. Looking really forward for your comments, and of course see you at our next video right there.